financial services industry as a stockbroking firm 25 years ago, today Capital Trust has expanded into many areas of business, including investment advisory, margin trading, wealth management, development of luxury apartments, property brokering and property management, information technology, automobiles and education, to become one of Sri Lanka's leading business organizations. Capital Trust Holdings Limited, the partner you trust in wealth creation.
Every night, I hear the woman next door crying. This ends today. Drug abuse, no more. We will shine a light in the dark and protect Bangladesh. No more watching from the sidelines. I will put the spotlight on corruption. She used to tremble every time he stepped onto the floor. Today, we shook the floor. Come, let us take a tough stance against wrongdoing. One small step can bring millions of us together. We break the news for you, breaking all barriers. We are you. We are Dhaka Tribune. Breaking news, breaking barriers.
We have a distinguished panel today, and we will start the proceedings with a keynote address from His Excellency Tariq, High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Sri Lanka. The Honorable Mr. Tariq Mohammed Ariful Islam, he is the current High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Sri Lanka. He is a career diplomat with past connections to the UN, the Bangladesh Foreign Service, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. High Commissioner, over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. William Rizal, I understand it's quite early in London, but I think that's the new normal for all of us. So today's guest of honor, Sir Peter Heath, Mr. Roshan Madhawela, CEO of RIU, and all those who are connected. I'm really honored to be invited to this webinar, and I thank RIU for taking interest in Bangladesh's real estate sector and coming up with their report. In my today's deliberation, I'll first speak about the economic progress of Bangladesh, because that has been the driving force behind the real estate sector development. So as you might be knowing that Bangladesh was once dismissed as a basket case in the early 70s. But today, Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and our socio-economic development, more importantly, has been very consistent. Our macroeconomic indices will speak of it. As you have seen in the opening video, that our some of the statistics has already been shown, but let me go over them again. Our GDP growth over the past 1 decade has been 6% plus. Right before the pandemic, it was 8.2%, and even during the pandemic, it was 5.8%, one of the highest in Asia. And Bangladesh has been ranked among third among 20 countries which registered positive GDP growth during the pandemic. Our per capita income has tripled over 3 times over past 1 decade, which now stands at US dollar 2,554. And we are now a $400 billion economy, the 41st largest in the world, and we aspire to be the 25th largest economy in the world in 2035. Our foreign currency reserve has hit all-time high, 48 billion US dollars, and our export growth over the past 1 decade has been 8.6%. And why this has been possible? This has been largely possible because of the political leadership. It was the dynamic and pragmatic leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Most importantly, she has brought the political stability in the country, and that has given the tremendous boost to our economy, to our business community. Now we are diversifying our industrialization and also diversifying our export basket. You will be surprised to know that Bangladesh last year exported industrial robots to South Korea. We are exporting home appliances to Turkey, to India, and many of the Eastern European countries. We are assembling Samsung Galaxy flagship phones and laptops in Bangladesh. Countries like Germany and Netherlands, they are buying ocean-going vessels from us. We are number 2 in the world when it comes to supplying online labor. And our pharmaceutical products are going to more than 100 countries in the world, including the EU and the North American market. As I've said, we are producing 85% of our smartphone products. We are producing photovoltaic cells for our solar power generation. In our domestic market, interestingly, our domestic home appliances are pricing out global electronic brands like LG, Samsung, Philips, and Sony. Our huge domestic market, which is a market of 175 million people, has kind of insulated us from the global trade war. As a result, our economy can remain relatively affected by politics and other extraneous factors. And that is why it is safe and profitable to invest in Bangladesh. That will take me to the foreign direct investment in Bangladesh and vis-a-vis the real estate sector. Bangladesh perhaps offers the most liberal foreign direct investment regime in the region, in South Asia. And all the necessary policy frameworks, and needless to say that they are already in place. We are ensuring full protection to the foreign investors, including from nationalization and expropriation. Generally, there is no prior approval requirement for issues of shares, almost no limit on foreign equity participation, and there is hardly any bar on repatriation of capital and profit. Besides, due to our low production cost, availability of skilled human resources and development in infrastructure and power sector, we have become one of the most cost-efficient production hub and outsourcing destination in the world. Our increasing power and surging domestic market, as I've said, of 170 million people is making large foreign multinational companies invest in Bangladesh. We are coming up with 100 special economic zones, we'll call them SEZs, and 39 high-tech parks spread all across the country. And they create the best environment, the business climate for investment. I can mention a few companies that Honda is setting up vehicle assembly plants in Bangladesh. Mitsubishi and Samsung, they are setting up manufacturing facilities. Countries like China, India, Japan, and South Korea, they have their own dedicated special economic zones in Bangladesh. Now we have gone into high-end manufacturing, such as automobile and even electric vehicle manufacturing under joint venture with many of the global market leaders. The number of Japanese companies in Bangladesh has almost tripled over the past 10 years. And interestingly, during the pandemic, Even during the height of the pandemic, we have seen that many countries are relocating their business from other countries. And we have dedicated government bodies for attracting foreign direct investment and for ease of doing business, which comes under the direct supervision of the Prime Minister's office. So you can imagine what kind of importance we attach to attracting foreign direct investment. No wonder our foreign direct investment registered a 50% growth between the year 2018 and 2019. And even during the pandemic, in the first months of 2020, there we registered a 32% increase in foreign direct investment. Now, let me now turn to the real estate sector, our today's topic of discussion. Bangladesh's real estate sector is growing steadily on the back of the rapid development of the country, rising demand for housing, expanding middle class, and the soaring per capita income. The growth is not only about developing apartments, but it's also coming up in the form of model cities, shopping malls, major infrastructure, and commercial setup with an elaborate view of high profit margin. The real estate sector is also a big driver of our economic growth. The sector, along with its hundreds of linkage industries, contribute to about 12% of our GDP, and it is one of the largest employment generating sectors. The sector's market worth is currently $7 billion. The annual growth rate is 15 to 17%. Every year, there is a demand of 120,000 flats, and the price of apartments increase by 5 to 6% every year. Projection from the last population census says that the total housing demand will be 0.8 million units in 2020, and it will rise to 1.14 million in the year 2030. So you can gather that there are a lot of opportunities in the real estate sector of Bangladesh, and let me tell why. First of all is the increase in investment. The government has been giving some facilities to purchase property, land, and apartments. In banks and non-bank financial institutes are also providing home loans at very cheap interest rates. Their investment in real estate sector is also growing. I mean, the banks and the non-bank financial institutes. So in the near future, more investment will make its way into this sector, and it is estimated that it will be around $700 billion in the next 50 years. Then the city of Dhaka, that is the hub of the growth of our real estate sector. And only 40% of people, it's a city of 22 million people. Only 40% of these 22 million people have standard or below standard housing facilities. So the growth of housing demand will stay for a long time in the city of Dhaka. Now, what about the rest of the country? We are experiencing very high urbanization. The rate is about 5 to 6% per year. And close to 40% of the total population will be living in urban areas by the next couple of years. Recently, the Boston Consulting Group did a study where it showed that due to development of suburban areas and satellite towns and expansive road and highway networks, in the next 10 years, there will be 33 towns and cities which will have more than 2 million middle and affluent class customers. The right product and placement can convert these populations into the potential customers. And then the growing middle class. And they create a huge business opportunity for affordable housing. There are a number of challenges as well, but because of the time constraint, I will not go into that. But just to sum up that, our real estate sector still thrives against all the odds. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our real estate sector has been severe. But with the economy picking up strong, and the sector is also rebounding gradually. The government is providing support. The World Bank is going to start a credit scheme for apartment buyers. The Asian Development Bank is also contemplating the same. The government has also taken up some mega housing projects. Moreover, the high liquidity, which drove the lower interest in the banking sector, is also playing a vital role in the rebound of the real estate sector. So just to, in a nutshell, we can say that the future outlook of the real estate sector is in Bangladesh is really good, and I think it will be a good place for foreign direct investment. And I think the report of the RIU has shed important lights on the real estate sector in Bangladesh. I have gone through the report. There are very interesting and important findings about our real estate sector, and I think the report will be very useful not only for companies which are working in the real estate sector in Sri Lanka, but also country real estate business houses, real estate conglomerates in the region and beyond. So thank you again, RIU, for bringing us together on a rather unconventional sector, the real estate sector in Bangladesh. But with this launching of the report, I think the relevant stakeholders will be more interested. They will be more aware of what's happening in Bangladesh, particularly in the real estate sector, and perhaps we can come together, which could be beneficial for all the stakeholders. I would like to thank you all for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner, for that excellent, inspiring address. And it's good to know that Bangladesh is doing so well. We're very, very pleased about that. Our next, we're very honored to have Sir Peter Heap. Sir Peter Heap is a decorated British diplomat with military experience. He has a background in philosophy, politics, and economics. He has filled a variety of international roles involving the HSBC Investment Bank, Amarada Hess, Regal Petroleum, Mortgage Capital, Brazilian Chamber of Commerce in the UK, and several others. He is the honorary president of the British Sri Lanka and Maldives Forum for Business and Trade. Sir Peter, over to you. So Peter, we unmuted people.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I will be relatively brief because I can claim no expertise in Bangladesh and very little on property and real estate. However, I'm very delighted to be part of today's gathering, today's webinar, and I hope to learn from it as well as being able to participate in my own small way. As you've heard, I've had a varied diplomatic career. It unfortunately never took me to Bangladesh, but it did give me 3 years in Sri Lanka. I visited India quite often, both as a diplomat and later in business, but my travels have never yet taken me to Bangladesh, but hopefully there is still time. Things have changed a great deal over my lifetime, and I think today's event illustrates that rather well. We are here with participants from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, UK, and elsewhere. We can all see each other, we can all talk and exchange. We are talking about investment in a country which is a long way from those of us in London, and yet these are the changes that globalization has brought about. In my younger days in the UK, it was very much a sort of one unitary nation. Over my lifetime, Britain has become a multinational, multiracial country with many immigrants from the Indian subcontinent, and that has made life in England all the better. We glory in now being a multinational, multiracial country. And so today's gathering, I think, very much epitomizes those sort of changes. we are being alerted to these very special opportunities that are arising in Bangladesh, a country which has not had all that much publicity in the international stage. So we are learning from those of us at a distance, and very, very interesting and challenging to see the development in the housing market, in hotels, in shopping malls, and so on, giving opportunities for investment from Europe, from elsewhere in Asia and the Americas, and so on. And this again is a mark of the changed world we're in. People see opportunities not only in their own backyard, but far away. And often the far away opportunities are better and are going to give better returns than some of those on our doorstep. Bangladesh, of course, like all the rest of the world, has suffered a bit as a result of COVID-19, the pandemic, and that has slowed its economic growth. But as we've just heard from the High Commissioner, Bangladesh's economic performance over the last decade has been truly impressive, with levels of growth that any British Chancellor of the Exchequer would be absolutely delighted to see. But we have not seen those sort of figures in the UK for quite a long time. We, of course, share with Bangladesh and with Sri Lanka the Commonwealth link. I think the Commonwealth link over the last decade or two or three has not been taken advantage of to the extent that it could be and should be. But when we focus, as we are today, focusing on Bangladesh, we can become aware that the Commonwealth link gives us a lot in common in areas that we don't share with non-Commonwealth countries. The language, for a start, but also methods of doing business, our legal codes, our education systems, and so on. And all of that helps us to do business with each other and enables us to feel confident that our business relationship will be above board and better and more straightforward than those with many non-Commonwealth countries. So I look forward greatly to learning quite a bit from today's events. I'm delighted to see you all here, and I hope this will be the first of a number of comparable events that we might be holding. So thank you all.
Thank you, Sir Peter. Your remarks are always welcome, and we are privileged to have you today. Thank you for enlightening us with your knowledge and vast experience. Have you with us. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation on real estate trends and opportunities in Dhaka. This is by Anila Vikramasinghe, who is the Manager, Research and Business Development at the Research Intelligence Unit. Anila is a dedicated research-oriented professional with years of experience in research and has a strong background for assessing business needs, developing cost-saving solutions, and driving customer satisfaction. He has previously worked at MAS Holdings and the Lanka Market Research Bureau. Anila, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, William. So let me share my screen. Yeah, I hope you can see the screen.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be talking about the economic performance in Bangladesh. So that the luxury, semi-luxury apartment market, commercial real estate, retail, hotel, and bare land. So to start off things, I want to start off from the economic performance. So So the country has managed to tread a path of steady economic growth over the past decade, and more extraordinarily maintained this momentum during the past 18 months, whilst most in Asia stumbled. So the overall trend and recent resilience has rightly caught the eye of investors looking at emerging markets in multivarious sectors, including real estate. So the economic growth rate in Bangladesh recorded 6.8% in 2021, outpaced the growth rates of all countries in the Asia Pacific region. And the growth rate of Bangladesh recorded in 2021 impressively stands out in comparison to other regional countries. Yeah. So moving on to the GDP capita. GDP capita of Bangladesh rose to 2,100 USD in 2021 compared with 1,900 USD in 2020. So it has overtaken its neighbor India in terms of gross domestic product per capita in 2021, despite the slow growth due to the COVID pandemic. So the GDP capita of Bangladesh in the year 2021 stood among the top 4 neighboring countries. And the percentage of urban population in Bangladesh has been constantly rising over the years, reflecting the improvements in the living standards of the population underpinned by an amalgam of factors. So in 2020, there were approximately 64.8 million people living in urban areas in Bangladesh. In comparison to many other neighboring countries in the region, Bangladesh has managed to rank among the top 3 countries with the highest percentage of urban population in 2020. So the Bangladesh official exchange rate system is a free floating one, but in reality, the country practices a pegged floating system where a fixed exchange rate is managed with small fluctuations allowed around the fixed value. So in 2021, the inflation rate for Bangladesh was 5.5%. So the inflation rate forecasted at 5.8% for the year end 2021. So an estimated 10 million Bangladeshis are currently working abroad. Almost all the countries, including the host destinations of Bangladeshi migrants, face stagnation due to the coronavirus outbreak. So prior to the pandemic, however, most Bangladeshi migrants in different countries, including Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi, United Arab Emirates, Malaysia and US were sending higher amounts of money in 2020. And as a result, Bangladesh remittances hit a record high of USD 20 billion in fiscal year 20, making it the 8th highest remittance receiving country in the world. So the remittances increased 33.5% year on year to USD 16.68 billion in the first 8 months of 2021 fiscal year. So one of the reasons for the spike, particularly from the US, could be the higher return on savings in Bangladesh. Also, preparations to return home due to joblessness and insecurities have contributed to this spike in remittances. So Bangladesh was ranked 168th in the Global Ease of Doing Business Index in 2020 from 168th in the previous year. So as the government took initiatives to reduce registration fee and the name clearance fee, establishing new businesses in the country to a greater extent was made hassle-free and less expensive. So the removal of certifying fee for digital certificates was another pull factor that contributed to the increase in the ease of business in Bangladesh. So due to the increasing emphasis on investments in digitization and human capital, as well as the reduced security deposit, obtaining a new electrical connection, especially in the capital, has also become less time consuming and efficient. So the recent upgrades that were introduced to access credit information by the Credit Information Bureau have also contributed significantly to increasing the convenience of running a business in the country. So moving to the luxury, semi-luxury apartment market. So Dhaka's real estate market can be considered stable and enjoys steady demand growth from rising income levels, spurred by a period of sustained high GDP growth rates. So political and economic stability, falling interest rates, and larger construction projects have contributed to ensuring that the residential real estate market remains on a positive incline. So as middle class incomes rises, the demand for better housing increases across certain segments of the residential market, including land, gated communities, and luxury apartments. So currently, the cumulative supply of luxury and semi-luxury apartments in Dhaka, according to the RIU classification, which has, so we segregated the luxury apartment segment into 3 tiers, is approximately 120,000 units at the moment. So the categorization, according to we see several factors that include price, location, facilities, features, fittings, and the branding of the development. So the present supply of tier 1 and 2 apartments is around 66,000 units. So tier 3 accounts for 54,000 units. So, and new apartment supply additions to the inventory were slow during 2020. However, with the existing supply in tier 3 apartments had slow progress in 2020, but we observed an escalation in sales for tier 1 and tier 2 apartments, particularly during the Q3 of 2020. Then, so the RIU research indicates that areas such as Gulshan, Dhanmondi, Mirpur, Banani, and Mohammadpur accommodate the highest number of residential properties. So greater investigation into the upcoming projects also indicates that the aforementioned areas are the most targeted for residential property constructions currently and for the years to come. Uttara, Baridara, Bashundara, and Agagan similarly enjoy the attention of residential buyers. So location-wise, the demand for residential property is higher in prime locations such as Gulshan and Banani to the center of Dhaka, Uttara and Mirpur to the north, and Dhanmondi to the south. So Mirpur in particular is rapidly being sought by property developers at present as we observe a shift in residential property availability towards the north of Dhaka, especially with the extension of the city to Perbachar. So the developers further informed that areas such as Gulshan, Banani, Dhanmondi, and Chandigarh have always been quite popular places for residences, and that property prices and rent in general have often tended to be a bit higher in those areas. So according to research in 2019, Uttara, Mirpur, and Bashundara areas together make up almost 55% of all property purchase requests. Then, by regional standards, we can note that absorption rates in Dhaka are among the highest in Asia. RIU market surveillance is used to derive the absorption levels which depict the percentage of supply that has been sold. The Regal, Shelter, Camellia have absorption levels above 90%. Absorption levels for Vantage, Dignoto, and Sheltec, Bitika are between 80 to 90%. So Sheltec, Renu, Kabir Tower is reported to have absorption levels between 75 to 80%. So the implication is that there is a limited number of unsold units and developers may need to expand their focus on tier 1 market to intensify their sales. So the absorption levels of tier 2 seem to be dominated by Base, Brookwood, and Jalalabad House with absorptions of above 90%. So a lot of the other projects have also managed to maintain the absorption levels in the range of 80 to 90% for the year 2020. So similarly to RIU findings for tier 1 and 2 also indicates an overall environment of high absorption levels and thus the limited availability of units in the existing residential projects. So in contrast to tier 1 and 2, tier 3 for the year 2020 and 2021 has displayed absorption rates below 90%, out of which not very many have had absorption levels between 70 to 90%. So this is more an indication that the supply of mid-range affordable luxury apartments has been more forthcoming as compared to the upper and upper mid spaces in the year over the past few years. Talking about the prices, tier 1 apartments such as Dignoto 3, the Regal are competing at the higher end of the spectrum and therefore commands a high premium. So as compared to tier 1 and 2, the average price per square foot in tier 3 for 2020 and 2021 was mainly in the range of USD 75 to 130. The highest in the tier was presented at USD 132 by Sheltec. So according to RIU findings, the highest average price per square foot for upper mid residential spaces for 2020 was recorded at USD 287, whereas most of the projects in general were found to fall in the range of USD 160 to 270 per square foot. For tier 1, average selling price of 4-bedroom space can range from USD 800,000 to 1.2 million, whereas the price of a 3-bedroom space on average seems to fluctuate around USD 300,000 to 400,000. 2-bedroom selling prices usually seem to fall within the USD 200,000 to 300,000 range. So according to developer insights, renting apartments in Dhaka is currently more popular option and serves as a solution for the rapid urbanization in the city. The findings indicate that the average monthly rental in Dhaka can range between 0.4 to 0.7 per square foot. So coming to commercial real estate market, so Dhaka's skyline is now constantly evolving with new and taller buildings claiming their silhouette on the horizon. So many of the floors of the high-end commercial buildings are often occupied by multinational companies and national banks. So it is also very common to see other floors of such buildings often being occupied by luxury textile companies, luxury gymnasiums, conference halls, spaces for the emerging startup culture as co-working or shared working spaces. The Bangladesh cumulative supply of office space had remained largely unchanged for many years with little or no significant supply. So it took over a decade for Bangladesh to double the grade A office space supply, which is currently around 20,000 square feet. So this could partly be explained by the fact that the residential sector has attracted developers and investors for much of this time. So commercial developers would typically have a longer ROI as compared to the residential sector because office space is largely leased and not sold. So the chart below shows the cumulative grade A and B office supply additions to 2020 to 2021. The most significant annual rise in supply has been reported in 2019. Then as of now, Gulshan and Tegon and Uttara stand out as the locations with the largest supply of grade A office space. So with the completion of pipeline projects, supply in Gulshan and Tegon is set to skyrocket. So the lease rates for office spaces in Dhaka can also be greatly influenced by the location of discussion. So prime locations such as Gulshan, Baridara can project lease rates in the range of USD 1.5 to 2 per square foot per month due to the significance of the professional and commercial operations that take place in the neighborhood. So on average, however, the monthly lease rates for office in Dhaka can range between USD 0.5 to 1 per square foot. So the absorption, so according to real estate developers, the demand for both residential and commercial space is huge, but comparatively higher for residential given the population in Dhaka city alone. So many real estate agents in the country such as Namara, Bay, Assure, BTI, Asset Concord are already developing many modern commercial office space in the prime commercial locations in the city. So investors begin to invest commercial office space is the ideal sector to look into for future prospects. So coming to retail market. So with changing purchasing habits and patterns, Bangladesh currently has both an organized retail as well as a non-organized one, depending on the consumers targeted. So retail in Bangladesh, for the most part, has been unorganized, particularly owing to the low purchasing power that existed in the market for a long time. So as the country's economy continues to grow rapidly, the change in dynamics of the market, increasing elasticity of products and significantly increasing purchasing power are creating more demand for organized retail in the country, particularly in the capital. So the graph on the left represents Dhaka's annual cumulative retail supply for the past decade, which currently stands at over 4 million square feet. The cumulative until 2010 has been around 2.6 million square foot, and the year 2010 alone has represented 35,000. So Dhaka's retail supply operates across the city in different capacities. So however, the majority of the stores are located in the urban areas where the market base and price elasticity of demand are relatively higher throughout the year. So location-wise, this suggests that areas such as Uttara, Gulshan, Baridara, Mohammadpur, and Shantigarh and Badda provide more scope for increased supply of retail compared to other areas in the city. So similar to trends observed in the residential segment, the lease rates of retail properties in Dhaka city can vary from location to location. So the more high-end locations such as Uttara, Gulshan project lease rates of USD 35 to 40 per square foot on a monthly average, whereas the urban areas such as Seva and Kilogon, where the market base is relatively smaller and the supply does not target high-end consumers. The average monthly lease rates can be in the range of USD 15 to 20 per square foot. So presently, the Mascot Plaza is the most expensive retail space in Dhaka, followed by Raba Plaza and Metro Shopping Mall. So the occupancy rates in the retail sector for almost all the existing projects are higher than 60%. So the major retail markets with access to global brands such as Jamuna Future Park and Vasundhara City Shopping Complex seem to fall in the range of 75 to 85% absorption rates. Coming to the hotel sector, a comparison of the available of star hotels in Dhaka between now and a decade ago would indicate how rapidly the hotel industry is growing in the city. So compared to the neighbors, Bangladesh for a long time did not hold fame as one of the top tourist destinations in the region. However, the country witnessed rapid growth in both international and local tourism in the past decade, especially increasing demand for high-end, modern and luxury tourist accommodations in the capital, as well as most prominent tourist destinations outside of Dhaka. So with limited room supply entering the market, Bangladesh hotel performance in the organized market has been amongst the better performing ones in South Asia. Then on average, 5-star hotel occupancy came down to 35 to 40% in 2020 due to the pandemic, whereas it usually remains fully booked during the peak season, which runs from December to March. So the business hotel segment had a slow recovery during 2020 and 2021 as business conferences and meetings took place on digital platforms. So the occupancy rates increased to 52% on average in Q4 2020, whereas it was 70 to 80% before the pandemic. Then coming to the land market. So in keeping with the developers' insights, the RIU research findings also suggest that land values in prime locations such as Baridara and Gulshan have shown high values consistently throughout the recent years. So lands in Baridara has demonstrated significantly higher values every year, and this can probably be due to its popularity with the diplomatic and defense officials of the city. So currently the digitization of land management is also drawing serious attention of policymakers and researchers as part of the digital Bangladesh vision. So industry experts believe people will continue to invest in land and do not see it changing anytime soon as it provides security and investment. Okay, thank you. Over to you, William.
Thank you, Anila. We now move to a panel discussion, and the panelists are Reen Raman, Minoli Vikramasinghe, Onila Vikramasinghe, and it will be moderated by Roshan Madhawala. Briefly, Minoli is the Managing Director of Capital Trust Properties and is also Director of Capital Trust Credit and Capital Trust Corporate Solutions. He is a vastly experienced senior manager with a demonstrated history of working in the financial services industry. Ashiku Reen Raman is the General Manager of bproperty.com in Bangladesh. He also served as Country Head at iFlix, Head of Innovations, and Head of Digital Services at Grameen Phone Limited. He is the founder of Home Chef BD and Foodies. He has a history of working in technology, marketing, customer service, and project management. All of you know Roshan. He is the founding director of the Research Intelligence Unit. He has worked with the Asian Development Bank, the Commonwealth Secretariat, the World Bank, and various ministries in Sri Lanka. Roshan has headed many research teams, authored dozens of international publications, and produced multifarious country reports for emerging and developing markets, specializing in real estate related investments. We have just met Anila. So over to you, Roshan, who will moderate this session.
Thank you, William. Thank you for that. And thank you to His Excellency, to Sir Peter and Onila for that presentation. I will start off with a few questions to the panel before we open it up to the audience. So people in the audience, distinguished guests, etc., please feel free to send in your questions and we will address that in the second part of the panel discussion. Today we're very lucky to have a very balanced panel that gives us a sense of what foreign investors would look for in Dhaka, as well as being able to get some insights from people on the ground in Dhaka. My first question, which I actually had written down, has been somewhat covered by His Excellency's keynote address, but I will press on with it. The question is really, so in the sense that Bangladesh is such a young country, and on the international scene is very young, but it has made great progress. My question would be, I'll start with His Excellency, if you might address. Can you pinpoint the reasons for the success of Dhaka? According to the data that we have, there's some 76 million people have been vaccinated in the last 1 year, etc. Nevertheless, we have not seen the kind of turbulence in the economic activity that we have witnessed in other parts of Asia. So can we pinpoint the reasons as to why Dhaka in particular and Bangladesh in general has come out of this difficult situation? I think His Excellency is on a phone call, so I will start by asking that to Rehan. Rehan, over to you.
Thank you, Roshan. I think, as you correctly stated, that Bangladesh has shown great resilience of bouncing back from the pandemic, which in many countries, especially developed countries around Asia, are still struggling to come around from. One of the reasons is, as if you come to Dhaka or any part of the Bangladesh, you'll see the resilience of the people. I think the people are really eager to work. They see the opportunity to have a better lifestyle in every sphere of life, and whenever they see the opportunity, they really, bring all the resources and work very hard. I think that is one of the reasons. As His Excellency has mentioned rightly, I think the political stability has been a great factor for the private sector to boom and nourish, as well as I think there are some large infrastructural projects by the government. For example, the metro rail. There is a huge expansion that's happening in the airport, the main airport. A lot of domestic airports are coming toward the, in different cities in the country, and a lot of bridges are being built. So the transportation, the communication, as well as the digitization of the country. I can share one stat. Bangladesh has the 10th largest Facebook users in the world. So which also shows how the young people are very eager to adopt new technology, and also learn and really evolve. The other information that His Excellency mentioned that about I think the intern population and everything. I think that everything is coming together. I would say. So the pandemic was hit hard, but if you come to Dhaka now, you will probably see that you'll feel that it was never there. I'll share another information that previously, when our relatives or people in the diaspora who used to come from abroad, if they come after 5 years or 10 years, they used to say that, oh, Bangladesh has changed. I think that rate of change has come down to 3 years or 2 years. If people come to Dhaka in every 2-3 years, from the airport to wherever they come, whether it's in the high-rise city part of Gulshan Bonani or to the industrial part of Motihil or commercial part of Dhanmondi, people see a huge change in every 2-3 years, and that really, I think, explains how rapidly Bangladesh is changing. And from someone who's on the ground seeing these changes and being part of the startup tech and the other industries for the last 15 years, I can definitely vouch that we are going to be the next Malaysia very soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Rehan. That's very exciting times by the sound of it, which contrasts to some other parts of the world where nothing changes in 5-10 years. So it sounds like it's all happening there. Brilliant. We will come back to the mega projects, which you mentioned very interestingly, and the impact that has. We'll come back to that. Can I ask His Excellency Tariq to comment on what he thinks would be the secret ingredient of success for Dhaka to pull through the pandemic, briefly?
Thank you, Roshan. I think there were a number of things which kept us afloat during the pandemic. One was the people's resilience and the innovation. Since we are a hugely populous country, in fact, it was not very practical for us to sit idle. Although the government gave a huge stimulus package by our standard, which was more than $13 billion US, But I think people thought that they would do things in their own way. So during the pandemic, different industries and different service sectors, the agricultural sector, they became very innovative. They became very creative. So they kind of brought adjustments in their products and services. For example, the milk producers, since fresh milk was not possible to be delivered from one place to another because of the travel restrictions and all, so they went for value additive products. So they went for making yogurts, they went for making sweetmeats, and they started selling in the vicinity of the production. So that is how these people's innovativeness and the resilience that kept them afloat. So and of course the government's pandemic management was also a big boost apart from giving the stimulus package. The most of the except for maybe 1 or 2 months, the export-based industries, they were allowed to perform. They were allowed to operate, particularly the ready-made garment sector. The agricultural sector was little hard hit less. The pharmaceutical industries, they were allowed to operate in full capacity. So basically, certain sectors, agricultural sector and the industrial sector and to a lesser extent the service sector, they helped the country's economy to stay afloat, and that has been the reason behind the 5.8% growth even during the pandemic. And so it was a combination. It was a pragmatic combination, a blend of pragmatic combination of government's pandemic management, and of course the people's resilience, the people's innovation, which took us where we are now, perhaps towards the end of the pandemic, unless something drastically goes otherwise.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Yeah, I think it's very heartening, and we're all encouraged to see that the people in Dhaka and Bangladesh was able to beat back the pandemic to some extent, and we hope it stays that way. And also interesting to hear the story about the food being innovative. In the UK, I think 99% of Indian restaurants are actually owned by Bangladeshi business community. And anywhere I travel in the world, I always make sure my hotel is near a Bangladeshi community, because with the Sri Lankan taste, it's very similar and very palatable. Right, moving on. From a international investors' perspective, and I know Minoli and some of the other people who joined are looking at Bangladesh to enter and invest. So the current GDP growth rate and the momentum and the forecast for the next couple of years is going to put Bangladesh on the map and attract more and more interest from foreign investors. Already, we have done a few initial feasibility studies for some of the large MNCs who are looking to come into real estate in Bangladesh. So there are things on the horizon. Can we identify what would be the most important factors that foreign investors look for in an emerging market? Before I come to Minoli, I'll throw that to Sir Peter to share some thoughts on that. Over to you, sir. You have to unmute, Sir Peter.
So you're asking what are the most important factors that attract foreign investment? Is that
Yes,
the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, it depends very much, I think, on the nature of the investment and where it's coming from. But if it's large-scale investment, big projects, then I think that political stability is very important. Economic stability also. I mean, high rates of inflation or a staggering economy often are not very attractive to investors. there's an awful lot of competition around the world for investment from the richer countries of the world, particularly American and European, Western European, Northern European investment. And so it has to look attractive. It has to offer stability, a good prospect for a decent return on the investment, and one that many developing countries find a little difficult is the ability to remit profits, and if eventually the investment is sold or whatever, that the proceeds can be remitted back to the original home country. You know, many countries have it sometime or other have restrictions on that. But those are the areas. Also, of course, labour conditions that are reasonably favourable to the investor, and stability in the banking sector too will of course help. So all those factors will attract investment, but bearing in mind that it's a competitive world, and big countries, particularly manufacturing companies that are going to offer a lot of employment, are hotly competed for, and some countries make conditions very attractive in terms of taxes and lower taxes or tax holidays and so on, to attract that sort of investment, because particularly among government and political classes, offering employment as well as investment is always very attractive.
Thank you, Sir Peter. Yes, so stability, economic and political, and a conducive environment for businesses were the main takes. Can I ask Minoli to comment on what you would be looking for when you enter a new market?
Yeah, I think Sir Peter Heaps would have actually answered what I wanted to say. But the most important thing is the ease of doing business. As you go to a new country, you should be able to register your company easily, you know, all those tech stuff has to be very transparent. So that is one huge thing. And the other thing is the reliability of the labor force, the local labor force there. So that, is there a competent, I mean, if say the construction industry, if you're going there, is there adequate labor, local labor we can you know, employ from there. So that's another factor that would be very important, and the labor laws pertaining to that country. Another factor would be the taxation in that country, how it will affect a foreign entity that is going in there. And of course, very importantly, what Sir Peter Heap mentioned, the economic stability is very, very important for the sustainability of that company in that country. And of course, that affects the economic policies that are being put in and stuff. And also, of course, the exchange rate. Now, what we are experiencing in Sri Lanka, for example, the fluctuating exchange rate is a problem here. So that would be also another issue that, you know, a lot of the, which Bangladesh offers a very stable one. And the repatriation of funds. And His Excellency Mr. Tariq Islam told us that that is very easy. So those are the factors which will actually determine, you know, whether we would like to go into a brand new country with, and of course, the opportunities that are there in that country. So in terms of your research, And what His Excellency Mr. Tariq Islam was telling us, that there is a lot of opportunities. There's a huge population. Urbanization is increasing at a rate. So those are also plus factors, I guess. Yes.
Thank you, Minoli. Yes, you added a few more insights. I think remittances, Bangladesh gets, it's a top 10 in the world as one of the remittance earning countries. Similarly, it's a very stable exchange rate, which is great. Luxury if you're in Sri Lanka these days. And also, I think the balance of trade is generally in a fairly healthy condition. Before we move on, would Rehan like to add anything, in terms of if you've had any interaction with foreign investors recently and what their feedback is on Dhaka in particular?
Sure. As Minoli mentioned, that workforce, the quality of workforce is very important. We are seeing, as Anila has shared in his report, that we are seeing luxury construction, a lot of mega projects are happening. So we see a blend of foreign as well as local workforce, just as we've seen in the last 10 to 20 years in China. I think we see the similar trend of learning curve in the Bangladesh market as well. I think our engineers, construction builders, everyone is going through that learning curve. And as we have mentioned, we are very fast and eager to learn. The other part is, I think I represent a foreign company, EMPG, which is in 16 countries with 6,000 employees, who has raised over $100 million in Series D. So they have invested a fair bit of money in the property as well for the Bangladesh real estate market. We do online classified for real estate properties, and we are the leader in secondhand properties buy and sell. So we have connected over, I think, 100,000 buyers and sellers over the past 5 years. So what we've seen is the local quality of local management has also grown significantly. If I just can share one stat, Bangladeshi people, there are 16 CEOs in large multinationals, say British American Tobacco, Standard Chartered Bank, Grameenphone. All of these, Unilever, Bangladesh, all of these now have Bangladeshi CEOs. So there has been a shift of, previously it used to be Indian CEOs or from UK or US. I think Bangladeshis have really learned very fast and have been able to manage these large organizations. So when someone is investing in Bangladesh, they will definitely see a capable workforce as well as a capable management. And His Excellency has mentioned there are a lot of good policies being implemented. And there is certainly a lot of transparency in terms of how the information and the funds are being transferred. So there are definitely a lot of good signs for anyone to invest. Thank you.
Thanks, Rehan. Yes, of course, B property itself is a foreign investment. So it's a great example. In the interest of moving on, because I think we're going to run out of time, I will ask a couple of more questions before we open it up to the audience. So one thing I think has been touched on already, but we'll just try to recap again. I think the last year has seen the diaspora coming back into the scene and having a very active and very significant role in real estate. I'm wondering which segments benefit from the very large amount of funds that come in from. I think number one is the Middle East. I think the UK has close to 1 million Bangladeshi diaspora as well. So I'm curious as to which real estate segments typically benefit from the diaspora inflows. I will start with Anila for that one.
Yeah. So the diaspora remittance growth positively affects the GDP growth. So through its multiplying effects on the domestic demand. So that means that remittances spent by any given recipient can create multiplier effects for national economy such that every remittance dollar spent in local markets creates demand for services and products as well as the jobs required to provide them. So thus contributing overall economic growth. So this additional income expands recipient household options for consumption, so reducing poverty and improving standards of living. So they increase disposable incomes and demand for local goods and services and play a vital role in developing the local markets and infrastructure. So in 2020 and in the beginning of 2021, Bangladesh received quite a lot of inquiries from Bangladesh diaspora, as mentioned, especially from UAE, Italy, US, Canada, and the UK, mainly in search of land availability in the market. So strong remittance inflow from the Bangladesh diaspora contributed heavily to the growth even in 2021. So however, land prices are always quite high, and in such cases, the diaspora inquire about the availability of apartments in the Dhaka city. So what I could say is that the power of diaspora could act as a catalyst for increasing capital investment into Bangladesh real estate sector, especially in the luxury apartment sector.
Thank you, Anila. Excellent and very useful. Minoli, just your thoughts. Sri Lanka too has a lot of foreign remittances. Which real estate sectors typically benefit? Anila has said lands and apartments, but I guess it depends on the type of, if it's a blue collar worker or a white collar worker, etc. What are your thoughts on that from a broader South Asian perspective?
I think Onila is right. So the easiest investment that they can come to is real estate, and it will be apartments. So luxury apartments is one of the sectors that would benefit with the diaspora returning. Yeah, so that I think will be the main initial investment that will come in.
Thanks, Minoli. Ryan, any quick thoughts on that one? Brilliant.
Just to add on that, I think since we operate largely on second-hand market, real estate market, we have seen that investment has made the middle class very eager to own apartments. As some in the reports that we've rightly seen, that rental market is still the largest because it's fairly cheap than developed countries. But we see a progressive interest for people in Mirpur, Dhanmondi, Mohammedpur, Uttara, and especially in Purvachal, which is a new part of the city, is seen as being interested by middle class people, and the interest rate has gone down, so the mortgage and home loans are becoming easier. So they also see this as an opportunity. So a large number of middle class people are also being interested in the real estate market. Thank you.
Excellent. So one of the things we've done for the Maldives and for Sri Lanka is to host investor forums overseas, especially in the diaspora markets like the UK, Australia, and the Middle East. So perhaps that's a strategy that would work for Bangladesh as well in terms of mobilizing foreign investment in the form of diaspora inflows. Right, so I'm being bombarded by lots of questions from the audience, the team here. While we sort that out, please do keep sending your questions, and some of them are very enlightening to look at. So what we'll do is take a quick break for some messages from our sponsors, and we'll so don't go away. I mean, as panelists, you might be able to grab a cup of tea. I think His Excellency has a football match to attend as well, an international game. Yes.
So, Mr. Roshan, if you kindly permit me, can I leave now, because I have to be there before the inauguration. So if you could all kindly allow me to leave, but I'm sure the remaining Q&A session will be very interesting. I would have loved to be there, but for this pre-scheduled thing, I have to leave, and my apologies for that. But we will gather again, and we will interact on these at a later time.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and good luck with the game.
Thank you. Thank you.
So everyone can grab a cuppa if you want to. I think the sponsor messages will run for about 4 minutes.
financial services industry as a stockbroking firm 25 years ago, today Capital Trust has expanded into many areas of business, including investment advisory, margin trading, wealth management, development of luxury apartments, property brokering and property management, information technology, automobiles and education, to become one of Sri Lanka's leading business organizations. Capital Trust Holdings Limited, the partner you trust in wealth creation. Every night, I hear the woman next door crying. This ends today. Drug abuse, no more. We will shine a light in the dark and protect Bangladesh. No more watching from the sidelines. I will put the spotlight on corruption. She used to tremble every time he stepped onto the floor. Today, we shook the floor. Come, let us take a tough stance against wrongdoing. One small step can bring millions of us together. We break the news for you, breaking all barriers. We are you. We are Dhaka Tribune. Breaking news, breaking barriers.
Thank you and welcome back. There's a question from Purun Jabi, as well as an undisclosed person who works for JLL in Bangladesh. And both are very similar. They're asking about the market practices in Bangladesh are very different from the rest of the world. Some practices are not in line with general market practices in India or Sri Lanka, like advanced rent requirement for 6 months and 6 months IFRSD, I might clarify that, where in other places in South Asia, it's only 6 months. So, and connected to that, a representative from JLL in Bangladesh is asking about the withholding tax of 30%, and if the government has any plans to change that, because the MNCs find that some of the current policies are not entirely conducive to what they're looking for. I will start with Rayan on that one. Rayan, over to you, sir.
So there are two parts. I think one is more of a private practice by the realtors and the landlords, which is true. There are different variations of practices of advance rate and penalties, as well as different things. I think the main when these are true, as well as what we see by interacting with hundreds of such realtors every month, that culture is changing. I think everyone is coming into a concession that if the services are good, they're ready to cooperate. I think there is, for example, a practice of a lot of landlords asking for rent in cash because of their different private tax issues and everything. But I think we see there's a gradual, progress on that. I would, however, comment that in other countries where the developers cannot sell, they have other agents, real estate agents who can sell, and that part is missing in Bangladesh. And we lobby with government, and we definitely want the concerned people here to lobby with the government to have that in place. Because what happens is, if the builders start selling as well, I think there is definitely different practices coming. And whereas if they're agents, for example, in other countries, we operate in Zameen, in Pakistan, and Bayut in Saudi Arabia. In our website, there are agents who sell. And here we actually have to deal with the landlords who might be very old, very sick. So there are different practices that's happening. And that's largely because some of the policies are not existing in Bangladesh. But we definitely look forward to the government of Bangladesh to implement those. And regarding the withholding tax, I don't represent the government, so I cannot comment on that.
His Excellency left at the right time, I think. So yeah, we'll ask him that question later, hopefully. Just to be clear, Ryan, are the agents regulated in Bangladesh, or can anyone literally be an agent, as in many South Asian countries?
There is no regulation on agents. So there is actually no law of who can sell and who cannot in Bangladesh. So the current practice is the developers who are developing the buildings, whether it's the landlord himself or the, say, brother-in-law of the landlord or a specific professional developer, they usually have their own sales team and then sell. What we see, however, is a change because developers would like to concentrate on high-class development, and they would like to give it to a separate agency. So companies like B Property, we have separate teams to deal with those. So and such practice we see in second-hand apartments as well. They also see us and our sales team as a reliable partner as far as agent is concerned. But as far as the government is concerned, there is no law to regulate or whether to draw the boundaries, who can do what. There's nothing at this moment.
Okay, thanks. Minoli, any thoughts on that from your side?
I think it's very similar to what is happening in Sri Lanka, where it's not regulated at the moment, which we are trying to do. So I think, yes, I think that regulation should come in sometime, actually, yes.
Roshan, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, another question is one to do with giving some tips on which areas. Well, first part of it is how much of an influence do mega projects have on real estate? And I can ask all the panelists to share their thoughts. And the second part is more specific to Dhaka. Would you be able to share some game on which areas are really going to benefit from? I think the Asian Development Bank has pledged $11 billion in the next couple of years for a number of very large projects, railroad, highways, etc. So maybe I'll come to you, Rehan, after sharing that question around about the general impact of mega projects on residential and commercial real estate. Olile, do you want to share some thoughts on that? Sir Peter, you had your hand up. Would you like to add something as well?
I will tell if you want.
Okay. Minoli, yes.
Okay, I feel that infrastructure projects are vital for the demand of residential and, for example, commercial real estate. Primarily, we saw that in Sri Lanka after the 30-year war that ended. We saw we had no highways, whatever so those were developed just after the war, and that actually we started seeing apartments coming up. So urbanization, there was a increase in urbanization during that period. And the investment in real estate was not sort of sought after. From there onwards, we saw the prices in real estate escalating, like 50 to 100% every year from that, from 2010, right? That's that year onwards. So I think infrastructure development, if correctly identified, is very essential for economic growth, because you need the logistic, communication barrier, all those are met, right? So I think that's very essential for a country, the main infrastructure development.
Thanks, Minoli.
And also the transportation. Now, even Sri Lanka really needs that sort of infrastructure development, which we still are, needy of. So I think that is something that I think His Highness Mr. Tariq Islam was touching on, that there's going to be major developments in that arena. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's real prospects for Bangladesh to leapfrog some of the neighboring countries and arrive at a higher level with these mega projects. So very, very quickly, Anila, would you like to share your thoughts on which areas might benefit the most in Dhaka, according to the research, for upcoming supply of residential? I mean, Minoli touched on a very critical point there, where she said you could actually measure the impact of infrastructure on real estate prices over 10 years in Sri Lanka. What's your take on Dhaka for the next 10 years?
Yeah, just want to add a note on the mega projects, Roshan. So mega projects have often played an evidently crucial role in the country's economic development throughout history. So, and the accelerating of mass infrastructure development as such can only indicate the economic growth of Bangladesh, especially in the capital, is highly promising. So improved mass transportation, access to better power and enough electricity sources also mean that real estate sector of the metropolitan cities especially can be expected to flourish with the middle and upper income classes, increasing demands to have access to better infrastructure that aligns with their daily lifestyles. So, for example, many leading developers have already begun constructing luxury apartments in the less developed areas of Dhaka, as the new Dhaka Metro Rail is expected to reduce the travel time from north to south of Dhaka to 35 minutes, making stops at 16 stations along the way. So a journey that at present would take 2 to 3 hours one way, considering the traffic. So the mega projects are currently providing employment opportunities to several thousands of people in Bangladesh. So Padma Bridge alone, which is under construction, is expected to provide better opportunities for around 30 million people in the country. So all these indicating even further growths to be expected in the income levels and therefore savings and investment capacities of the citizens.
Excellent. Thank you, Anila. Over to Rian, very briefly, please, your feedback on that.
No, I think both of the panelists have added the impact infrastructure, and the main project has been discussed, so nothing to add on them. Thanks.
Thank you. There's a question here from Taslim Chowdhury. I would like to know what kind of opportunities are available for foreign construction companies to contribute to Bangladesh and why. Would you like to briefly address that one?
Sure. I think as we are evolving, definitely the design, materials, as well as the science of construction is something that the city is very hungry, and not only Dhaka, Chittagong is growing rapidly as well on the commercial sector. So as far as knowledge, know-how is concerned, I definitely think the large foreign construction companies can add a lot of value. I do see a big opportunity of foreign as well as domestic partnerships. We see there are large real estate developers like BTI, Bay, Nirman. They are coming with large residential projects where there will be opportunities for couples to have studio apartments, as well as families to have 2 to 3 bedrooms. So the design evolution is happening here. And we definitely see an opportunity of foreign and private joint partnerships being launched. We do see a lot of Chinese companies coming here with turnkey projects for large real estate developers. And I definitely see opportunity for others as well. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks. William's giving me some looks, which I think by our normal standards, William, we're okay. 5-10 minutes over time, but I'll try to wrap up. So that was very positive feedback. Thank you, everyone. I think to sum up, say that Bangladesh and Dhaka in particular has been performing exceedingly well, and particularly at a time when others have struggled. We see that per capita GDP has overtaken its neighbor and is now currently fourth in the region, which is quite an achievement. As His Excellency said, a few decades ago, people wouldn't give Bangladesh a chance, but obviously has proved otherwise. Added to that, we have a very stable exchange rate. Some of the things mentioned by Sir Peter, even others, in terms of what foreign investors look for. It's in the midst of a trajectory that is looking at Bangladesh becoming an upper middle income country in the next 10 years, which should be amazing. One of the things to note is a growing tourism industry from a low base, but it certainly is showing signs that I think in terms of branded hotels, quite a few have already entered Dhaka. So we may be able to watch how that progresses over the next few years. And just to reiterate, Bangladesh is one of the largest countries in the world in terms of population. It's in the top 10, and Dhaka, similarly, a city of some 21 million people, and the demands for real estate will be great in the time to come. And I think the real difference here, and we find this, our entire research team in the last couple of years since we entered Bangladesh, we find that the people we speak to are very professional. It's a very young and vibrant workforce, and the command of English and everything in terms of skills, business skills, is very high. So I hope that everything works out well, and we look forward to working with you guys on the ground in Dhaka. Right, so that's it from me. Thank you, William. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, two things, Roshan, before you go. Can you reassure those who have asked questions that you will liaise with them directly? And the second thing is, can you talk about the Bangladesh report, please?
Okay, yes. If you could tap in your email along with the question, the research team will get back to you with a detailed answer within the course of this week. That will be Thursday in Dhaka, but certainly by Friday we will get back to you. So if anyone has asked questions and we haven't addressed those yet, please just drop your email and we'll reply to you. And yeah, we have launched a report, a country report for Bangladesh, which is available online on our website. It is not free, but it's priced at a level that can be affordable to not just businesses or investors, but a regular person. So maybe, if you live in the West, it's probably just a couple of business lunches. It's not a lot of money, because we fundamentally believe that a free market economy needs access to information in order to operate. It's one of the pillars. It's a criteria. And in an industry as important as real estate, we feel that, which essentially affects everybody, we feel that giving people access to information at reasonable and affordable levels is fundamental, because for most people, your real estate investment is the most important investment that you'll ever make in your life. So yes, and please do get in touch with us for anything else. Sorry, I want to thank all the panelists, Rayan, Minoli, and Onila once again, and Sir Peter Heap. and His Excellency. So I'll pass it back to you, William. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. So we have spoken about the report, and so please try and get the report if you want to. The website is www.riunit.com, riunit.com/Bangladesh, but somebody will put it up on this site now, so you can get in touch. The final thing that we have to do is give a word of thanks, and we'd like to ask Shianath D'Souza. Shianath is the Honorary Treasurer of the International Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka. He is also a member of the Board of Directors of State Mortgage and Investment Bank. He is a financial services professional with a proven track record in corporate management, international business development, and operations. Shianath, I'll leave it with you to offer the word of thanks.
Thank you, William. As you know, His Excellency Tariq Islam had to leave earlier. We appreciate his time and the contribution he made to the webinar. Sir Peter Heath, President of the Sri Lanka and Maldives Forum for Business and Trade, Mr. Roshan Madawala, Founder, CEO and Director of the Research Intelligence Unit, distinguished panel members and friends. It gives me great pleasure to speak a few words at the end of another successful webinar by RIU. Bangladesh is a close neighbor and a country with which Sri Lanka has had extremely good relations since its independence in 1971. We in Sri Lanka have watched with interest the progress made by Bangladesh in the spheres of economic development and cricket. As Sri Lanka and Bangladesh both strive to build bigger and better after the COVID pandemic, this webinar would be considered timely, relevant, and should lead to future development of our respective economies at a critical time in our history. Let me thank the following persons who have contributed immensely to the successful conclusion of this webinar. First and foremost, I would like to thank His Excellency Tariq Ismail for taking the time out of his busy schedule to be with us at this webinar. Your presence has been an encouragement to all of us. Let me also thank our guest of honor, Sir Peter Heath, President of the Sri Lanka and Maldives Forum for the Business and Trade, for his insightful comments on the political socio-economy of Bangladesh. Let me also thank today's panel of experts, Rehan Rahman, General Manager, B Property, Onila Vikramasinghe, Head of Real Estate Research at RIU, Minoli Vikramasinghe, Managing Director of Capital Trust Properties Limited, for their insight into the evolving trends of the real estate market in Bangladesh. One person who I must mention is Roshan Madawala, Founder, CEO of RIU, without whose energy and vision this project would not have been possible. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank William Hazel, Associate Director of RIU in London, and his team for support extended towards the success of this webinar. Also, the able RIU team in Sri Lanka for their contribution and technical support that made this webinar possible. Also, the team in Bangladesh for helping out with the research and for doing the valuable field work that made this research project possible. Finally, let me thank all of you who participated in this webinar for your interest and cooperation. We hope to continue the dialogue between our two countries to promote trade and investment, which will bring prosperity to all. Thank you.